here's what nobody's telling you about Putin right now. While the world is watching Israel and Iran throw missiles at each other, Vladimir Putin is playing the most dangerous game of his entire career. And what makes this absolutely insane is that he's doing it all while fighting a full-scale war in Ukraine that's already cost him 1 million soldiers. Think about that for a second. The man is simultaneously trying to be the peacemaker between two countries that want to destroy each other while his own military is bleeding out in Eastern Europe. This isn't just ambitious. This is strategic desperation disguised as diplomatic genius. Let me paint you the picture of what's really happening. June 2025, Israel launches massive airstrikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. Hundreds dead. Thrawn fires back with ballistic missiles. The entire Middle East is on the edge of World War II. And who picks up the phone to both sides? Vladimir Putin. Within hours of the first explosions, Putin's on call with Netanyahu. Then he's talking to Iran's President Pezeshkian, then Trump, then the UAE, then back to Netanyahu again. 4 different phone calls in one day. This guy is working the phones like he's running a crisis hotline. But here's where it gets absolutely wild. Putin tells Netanyahu he'll ensure the safety of 200 Russian workers building nuclear reactors in Iran. Yes, you heard that right. Russian technicians are literally in Iran right now constructing the very nuclear facilities that Israel just tried to destroy. And Putin's asking Israel to promise they won't accidentally vaporize his people while they're bombing Iran's nuclear program. The audacity is off the charts. Now, Trump being Trump basically tells Putin to stay in his lane. The quote is legendary. Trump says, "Do me a favor, mediate your own. Let's mediate Russia first." Translation: fix your own war before you try to fix everyone else's. But Putin doesn't stop. He can't stop, because what I'm about to tell you reveals why this mediation offer is actually the most brilliant geopolitical move Putin's made in years. See, everyone thinks Putin's playing peacemaker because he cares about Middle East stability. Wrong. Putin doesn't care about peace. Putin cares about power. And right now, Russia's power in the Middle East is hanging by a thread. Let me show you why. December 2024, Bashar al-Assad, Putin's closest ally in the entire region, gets overthrown in Syria, gone, finished after Russia spent 9 years and billions of dollars keeping Assad in power. This was Putin's anchor in the Middle East. His military bases, his Mediterranean access, his credibility as a reliable partner, all gone in a matter of weeks. When Assad fell, every Middle Eastern leader looked at Putin and thought the same thing. This guy can't even protect his closest ally. Why would we trust him? Saudi. Arabia watched, UAE watched, Egypt watched, even Iran, Russia's supposed strategic partner, started questioning Moscow's value. Because here's the brutal truth about geopolitics. Nobody wants to partner with weakness, and Putin looked weak. So when the Israel-Iran conflict exploded 6 months later, Putin saw an opportunity, not just an opportunity, a lifeline. If he could position himself as the indispensable mediator, the only person who can talk to both throne and Tel Aviv, suddenly he's relevant again. Suddenly he's back in the game. Suddenly everyone needs Russia. But there's a problem. Actually, multiple problems. First, Putin has zero leverage over Israel. Netanyahu literally ignored Putin's mediation offer and kept bombing. Second, Putin has limited leverage over Iran despite signing a strategic partnership in January 2025. Russia didn't send Iran a single advanced air defense system during the conflict. Not one. Iran asked. Putin said no. Third, nobody trusts Putin. Trump rejected the mediation offer. Israel's working with Oman instead. Even Iran's looking at Qatar for help. So why is Putin still trying? Because he's playing a different game. This isn't about actually mediating peace. This is about appearing relevant. It's about showing up on the world stage when everyone assumed Russia was too busy dying in Ukraine. It's about sending a message to Middle Eastern countries. We're still here. We still matter. You still need to talk to us. And here's the crazy part. It's actually working. Sort of. Despite the obvious weaknesses, Putin managed something remarkable. He maintained phone contact with both sides during active warfare. He got Trump to at least acknowledge his offer before rejecting it. He kept Russian influence alive in conversations where Russia should have been completely irrelevant. That's not success, but it's not total failure either. It's survival. But survival comes at a cost. And the cost Putin's paying is becoming crystal clear. Let's talk about the impossible position Putin's stuck in, because what he's attempting right now would be insane. Even if Russia wasn't fighting the biggest war in Europe since World War II, Putin is trying to simultaneously maintain close military ties with Iran while keeping friendly relations with Israel. These two countries literally want each other destroyed, and Putin's trying to be best friends with both. Here's what that looks like in practice. Russia has a comprehensive strategic partnership with Iran, signed January 2025. This isn't just a handshake deal. This is military cooperation, nuclear technology, sanctions evasion, the whole package. Iran supplies Russia with thousands of Shahd drones that Putin's using to bomb Ukrainian cities right now. Russia helps Iran build nuclear reactors. They coordinate on Syria. They both hate Western sanctions. They're natural partners. But at the exact same time, Putin maintains what he calls a trusting relationship with Israel. Nearly 2 million Russian speakers live in Israel, former Soviet citizens, people Putin considers part of Russia's extended family. Netanyahu and Putin have a personal relationship going back years, multiple meetings, phone calls. Netanyahu even thanked Putin publicly for helping release Russian-Israeli hostages from Hamas. This isn't surface-level diplomacy. This is deep relationship building. So when Israel started bombing Iran in June 2025, Putin had to thread the world's most dangerous needle. He condemned Israel's actions, called them violations of international law, then immediately got on the phone with Netanyahu and offered to mediate. He expressed solidarity with Iran, then told Tehran that Russia wouldn't provide military assistance against Israel. He positioned himself as Iran's strategic partner, then made sure Russian technicians in Iran were protected by getting Israel's agreement not to target them. This is diplomatic gymnastics at the Olympic level, and it reveals something crucial about Putin's actual strategy. He's not trying to pick a side. He's trying to be the only person who doesn't have to pick a side. Because the moment Putin chooses Iran over Israel, or Israel over Iran, he loses half his Middle East influence. So he chooses neither. He chooses both. He chooses Russia. But this balancing act is getting harder every single day. Here's why. Iran expects Russia to be more supportive. Thrones getting hammered by Israeli and American airstrikes. Iranian nuclear facilities are being destroyed. Military commanders are being killed. The Islamic Republic is facing an existential threat, and their supposed strategic partner Russia is offering thoughts and prayers instead of S-400 air defense systems. Meanwhile, Israel's getting frustrated too. Russia's supporting Iranian proxies. The Houthis in Yemen are firing missiles at Israeli cities with Russian diplomatic backing. Hamas and Hezbollah have Russian political support. Putin condemns Israeli military operations as violations of international law, while his own military is committing war crimes in Ukraine every single day. The hypocrisy is stunning. So both sides are asking the same question: what's Russia actually good for? And Putin doesn't have a great answer, because here's the truth. Russia can't meaningfully help either country anymore. The military resources are gone. They're stuck in Ukraine. The economic leverage is limited. Sanctions have isolated Russia. The diplomatic credibility is shot. Syria proved Putin can't even protect his closest allies. What Putin has left is access. He can talk to both sides. He knows both leaderships personally. He has institutional relationships with Throne and Tel Aviv that go back decades. In a region where communication channels are breaking down, Putin's ability to maintain dialogue with everyone is actually valuable. Not game-changing valuable, but valuable enough to matter. And Putin's exploiting this access for everything it's worth. When the conflict started, he immediately positioned Russia as the neutral mediator. He called it a delicate issue, but insisted a solution could be found. He shared proposals with both sides. He coordinated with Trump. He worked the UN Security Council. He activated every diplomatic channel Russia has. The goal wasn't to actually stop the war. That was never realistic. The goal was to be seen as the person trying to stop the war, to embed Russia in the conversation, to make Moscow indispensable to any eventual settlement. Because if peace talks ever happen, Putin wants Russia at that table, not as a participant, as the host. But there's another layer to this strategy that most analysts are missing. Putin's not just trying to mediate between Israel and Iran. He's trying to rebuild Russia's entire Middle East position. Because losing Syria wasn't just about military bases. It was about credibility. For years, Putin's pitch to Middle Eastern countries was simple. Partner with Russia. We're reliable. We protect our allies. We deliver results. Then Assad fell, and that entire pitch collapsed. Every Arab leader, every Iranian official, every Israeli strategist looked at Syria and saw Russian weakness. They saw a superpower that couldn't save its oldest friend. And in the Middle East, weakness is contagious. If you can't protect Assad, why would you protect anyone else? So Putin needs a win, not a military win. Russia can't afford that. A diplomatic win, a perception win, something that proves Russia still matters in the Middle East. Despite Ukraine, despite Syria, despite everything, the Israel-Iran mediation is that opportunity. Even if it fails, especially if it fails, Putin can say, we tried. We were the only ones trying. Everyone else gave up. Russia never gives up on the Middle East. Now we get to the part that's going to blow your mind, because everything I just told you about Putin's Middle East strategy, it's actually not about the Middle East at all. It's about Ukraine. Every single move Putin makes in the Israel-Iran conflict is designed to help him win the war that's actually destroying Russia. Think about it. Putin's burning through 1 million casualties in Ukraine. His economy is running on fumes. Western sanctions are crushing him. NATO's more united than ever. The European Union is sending weapons to Kiev. And Putin desperately needs the West to stop caring about Ukraine. He needs attention somewhere else. Anywhere else. Enter the Middle East. June 13th, 2025. Israel bombs Iran's nuclear facilities. Suddenly, every Western leader is talking about Tehran and Tel Aviv instead of Moscow and Kiev. CNN switches from Ukrainian casualties to Iranian missile strikes. The UN Security Council holds emergency sessions about the Middle East, not Eastern Europe. Global oil prices spike. Shipping lanes get threatened. The entire world pivots. And Putin couldn't be happier, because every day the West focuses on the Middle East is a day Russia can advance in Ukraine without scrutiny. Every headline about Israel and Iran is a headline not about Russian war crimes. Every diplomatic effort directed at preventing World War II in the Persian Gulf is effort not directed at stopping Russian aggression in Europe. The numbers tell the story. Between May and June 2025, while everyone was watching the Israel-Iran conflict, Russia gained 223 square miles of Ukrainian territory. That's equivalent to 2 Nantucket Islands. Putin's forces pushed deeper into Donetsk. They advanced near Kharkiv. They consolidated control in occupied regions, all while Western media was obsessed with Middle Eastern missiles. But it gets even more strategic. Putin's mediation offer isn't just a distraction, it's a legitimacy play. By positioning himself as a peacemaker in the Middle East, Putin's trying to rehabilitate Russia's image on the world stage. He wants people to forget he's a war criminal invading his neighbor. And remember, he's a statesman trying to prevent regional conflict. And with Trump back in the White House, this strategy has extra dimensions. Trump's trying to normalize relations with Putin. He wants to end the Ukraine war quickly, even if it means forcing Kiev to accept terrible terms. Having Putin play mediator in the Middle East gives Trump political cover. See, Putin's not just a war armonger. He's a diplomatic partner. He's helping with Iran. We can work with him. This is geopolitical manipulation at the highest level. Putin's using the Israel-Iran conflict to reshape his relationship with America, distract from Ukraine, and rebuild Russian prestige. 3 goals, 1 crisis, maximum exploitation. But here's where Putin's strategy reveals his real priorities. When the Israel-Iran conflict started, analysts expected Russia to back Iran hard. After all, Iran's supplying the drones killing Ukrainians, Iran's Russia's strategic partner. They signed a comprehensive agreement. They coordinate militarily. Russia should be aligned with Tehran, right? Wrong. Putin immediately played neutral. He condemned Israeli strikes but offered no military support to Iran. He criticized Tel Aviv but maintained contact with Netanyahu. He expressed solidarity with Tehran but refused to send weapons because Putin can't afford to alienate Israel. Not now. Not when he needs every possible diplomatic channel to end the Ukraine war on favorable terms. And Israel knows this. Netanyahu knows Putin's desperate. That's why Netanyahu basically ignored Putin's mediation offer and kept bombing. That's why Israel coordinated with America instead of Russia. That's why Tel Aviv treats Moscow as a secondary player despite Russia's historical influence, because weakness invites exploitation and Putin's weak. The same calculation applies to Iran. Tehran sees Russia's limitations. They know Putin can't provide advanced air defense systems because Russia needs every S-400 for Ukraine. They know Russia won't risk confrontation with Israel because Putin's already confronting NATO. They know the strategic partnership has limits, hard limits, limits defined by Ukraine. So both Israel and Iran are using Russia for their own purposes while ignoring Russia's actual interests. Israel uses the relationship to maintain communication channels with Iran through Moscow. Iran uses the relationship to legitimize its position and frustrate Western diplomacy. But neither side sees Russia as truly essential. They see Russia as useful. There's a massive difference, and Putin knows it. That's why his mediation efforts are so aggressive. He's compensating for irrelevance with visibility. He can't offer military solutions, so he offers diplomatic noise. He can't change facts on the ground, so he tries to change perceptions. He can't be the most powerful player, so he tries to be the most active player. This reveals the central tragedy of Putin's position. Every move he makes in the Middle East proves how much Ukraine has weakened him. A strong Russia wouldn't need to beg for mediation opportunities. A strong Russia wouldn't get rejected by both sides. A strong Russia wouldn't have lost Syria. A strong Russia wouldn't be this desperate for relevance. But Putin's not running a strong Russia anymore. He's running a declining power, trying to maintain great power status through sheer force of will. And nowhere is that decline more visible than in his frantic Middle East diplomacy. So where does this all lead? Because Putin's strategy in the Israel-Iran conflict isn't sustainable. You can't indefinitely balance between two enemies while fighting your own war. Eventually, something breaks. The question is, what breaks first and who pays the price? Let's game out the scenarios. Scenario 1, the Israel-Iran conflict de-escalates. Oman mediates. America gets involved. Iran agrees to nuclear restrictions. Israel stops bombing. Peace breaks out. Where does that leave Putin? Completely sidelined. All his diplomatic efforts become irrelevant overnight. Russia gets zero credit for peace because Russia contributed nothing to peace. Putin's mediation offer becomes a footnote in history. Scenario 2, the conflict escalates. Israel invades Iran. America joins the war. Regional powers pick sides. Oil prices explode. Global crisis. This actually helps Putin short-term because it distracts from Ukraine, but it hurts Putin long-term because chaos in the Middle East threatens Russian interests everywhere. Iranian drone supplies to Russia could stop. Oil market disruptions could hurt Russian revenues, and Putin loses any remaining credibility as a stabilizing force. Scenario 3, frozen conflict. No peace, no major escalation, just ongoing tension with periodic flare-ups. This is Putin's best-case scenario. It keeps Western attention divided. It maintains Russia's relevance as a potential mediator. It prevents either side from decisively winning, which would eliminate Russia's balancing role. Putin wants permanent crisis, not permanent war, and not permanent peace. And here's the thing. Scenario 3 is actually the most likely outcome because neither Israel nor Iran can achieve total victory. Israel can damage Iran's nuclear program but can't occupy Iran. Iran can harass Israel with missiles but can't destroy Israel. Both sides can hurt each other indefinitely without resolving anything, which creates exactly the kind of grinding, unresolvable conflict where Putin thrives. But even in his best-case scenario, Putin faces massive problems. First, trust. Nobody trusts Russia anymore. Middle Eastern countries watched Syria fall. They watched Ukraine bleed. They see Russia's weakness. Partnership with Moscow looks less attractive every month. Saudi Arabia's hedging, UAE's diversifying, even Iran's exploring options beyond Russia, second resources, Putin's gambling everything on Ukraine. He's mobilizing the economy for war production. He's burning through foreign reserves. He's sacrificing long-term growth for short-term military needs, which means Russia has less and less to offer Middle Eastern partners. No advanced weapons because they're going to Ukraine. No major investments because money is going to Ukraine. No security guarantees because forces are tied up in Ukraine. Third, competition. China's expanding Middle East influence. Turkey keys becoming the dominant power in Syria. America is still the primary security guarantor for most Arab states. Russia's trying to compete with all of them simultaneously while fighting a major war. The math doesn't work. Putin can't be everywhere, and the Middle East is realizing it. So what's Putin's actual endgame here? I think it's simpler than people assume. Putin's not trying to control the Middle East. He's trying to prevent Russia from being completely shut out of the Middle East. He's playing defense, not offense. Every mediation offer, every phone call, every diplomatic initiative is about maintaining the baseline of Russian relevance. Because Putin understands something crucial. Russia doesn't need to be the most powerful country in the Middle East. Russia just needs to be present enough that people can't ignore Russia. As long as Moscow has relationships with key players, as long as Putin can pick up the phone and get through to leaders, as long as Russia has some cards to play, then Russia remains a player in the great game. This is geopolitical survival strategy, and it's working just barely well enough to keep Russia in the conversation. Not thriving, not dominating, but surviving, which, given Ukraine, Syria, and everything else, might be the most Putin can realistically achieve. But here's what keeps me up at night. Putin's survival strategy in the Middle East depends on other people's conflicts. He needs Israel and Iran fighting. He needs regional instability. He needs crises that require mediation, which means Putin has a vested interest in things not getting better. He benefits from chaos. And a nuclear-armed Russia with a leader who benefits from Middle East chaos is terrifying because it creates incentives for Putin to quietly sabotage peace efforts. Not obviously, not in ways anyone can prove, but through strategic leaks, through arming certain groups, through diplomatic obstruction. Anything that keeps the pot boiling serves Putin's interests. This is the dark heart of Putin's Middle East strategy. It's not about peace. It's never been about peace. It's about using other people's wars to distract from his own war. It's about exploiting regional tensions to rebuild Russian prestige. It's about turning tragedy into opportunity. The Israel-Iran conflict isn't Putin's enemy. It's Putin's lifeline, and that should terrify everyone. Now, I'm asking you, can a leader fighting the bloodiest war in Europe since World War II really be a trusted mediator in the Middle East? Can Putin balance between Israel and Iran while Moscow burns through soldiers in Ukraine? Drop your thoughts in the comments. This isn't just about Putin, Israel, or Iran. This is about how desperate powers manipulate global crises for survival. And we're all caught in the